Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live. This is where we get together and we talk about what's going on in the world of Auburn family news. Obviously, always heavy on the sports side of things here, but if it's orange and blue, we'll talk about it here on this show live. So this is a live broadcast and it thrives off of you, the viewers, being here, interacting, saying hello, War Eagle. Whatever you'd like, let me know that you're here. And even if you're watching this on the replay, we appreciate you stopping by for a few minutes to see what we were talking about today and to be a part of our little family within the Auburn family. So we've got a main topic today of the defensive line coach search continues when we thought we had the Auburn football staff all complete. So we'll talk a little bit about that today and many other things that you want to talk about that you have on your mind. So don't be shy with the comments and the questions. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kyle. I am the editor and owner of the E2C Network, which is a family of podcasts that cover Auburn topics. Anything out there, we'll talk about it. We even have done a series about, The Bachelor at one point. If it's orange and blue, we'll talk about it here. A couple things that we always share with you at the beginning of the show. Those of you that can see it on YouTube, the Instagram folks, we're going live on Instagram. I think it's live. I hope it's live. So if anybody's watching right now on Instagram, please do let me know. I'll switch it around for the social media folks every once in a while to see who wants to be on which platform. But anyway, it's there. I hope it is live. So let me know if you guys can see it there. For those of you on YouTube, here are the ways that you can help support the podcast. First of all, you can listen to the podcast. I'm putting the Apple link in right now for you to check out. If you haven't done so already, we've got a brand new episode of Tiger Tracks where we do track and field discussion. Yes, we have a track and field show. You can do that. Or if you want to help support the content that we do here financially for as little as $1 a month, you can sign up to be part of the E2C Network Booster Club. Several of you have done that already, and we really appreciate that so much because that helps pay the bills for everything that we do here. As you come into the stream today, see a lot of familiar faces already. Please do make sure you smash that like button if you are enjoying what you are watching here. If you're not, understandable. But if you are enjoying, it does help the stream get out there, even if this is on the replay when you're watching, because we want to always invite as many people to be in here, part of the conversation as we can. Hillbilly's here. War Eagle to you, sir. Kenneth, War Eagle. Darius comes in right in with the topic. We missed out on Cardwell. Ouch. I honestly didn't put a lot of stock in that, to be honest with you. I keep, I'm trying to, I say this, and I don't say this to downplay everybody that gets into recruiting, because there was a time in my life where I could do nothing except go to class in college or go to work and come back and just check the recruiting boards. I got so obsessive about it. I've learned just to kind of, be aware of it, but not to obsess so much. I'm not saying that you were, but they don't really hurt me as much. I just want people that want to be here. And if we get someone big, there you go. Darius thinks we offered too late and he went to Oregon. Yeah, I don't think that was a shock that he was going to go to Oregon, though. I mean, I don't know that anybody expected him to go anywhere else that was really looking at that. Sure, we can get Hunter. Well, Hunter, if you're talking about Hunter Lee is already committed, and I think he's a lock right now, so I wouldn't worry too much about that at this point. Let's see. Joe, what's going on, man? Good to see you here, buddy. Appreciate you stopping in. So yesterday we didn't do a live stream. I felt like it was kind of a nice little break for everybody because, I get in habits where we can do these every day, but sometimes it's not the best thing in terms of content that's out there to talk about. So I felt like yesterday was a nice little breather, but I missed you guys. I did. So that's why we're doing one today. And, on the topic of the defensive line situation, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have a lot of information. I've reached out to my source. They have not gotten back to me, and they haven't. And normally the source kind of reaches out to me beforehand to tell me if they've got information. So that, there's nothing really in terms of where Auburn's going to go with this at this point. It's a little like, we had this thing locked up. We had this thing solidified. All the questions about who was going to coach where are done. All the speculation about T-Will was done. And here we are sitting, again, amidst a coaching search. So it's a little bit frustrating to not have it solidified. Part of the reason, too, we didn't do a no huddle show which is the Auburn football podcast on the network, because the coaching situation didn't get solidified, and they wanted to do a full like breakdown of all the coaches, take an in-depth look at them, and maybe even rate them and stuff like that. So they'll probably be back next week, barring unless something big happens that they need to cover. But the defensive line coach, I really don't know. Does anybody else have any inklings out there what they're going to do? We talked a lot. So the news broke literally as we started live streaming 2 days ago that Tracy Rocker was going to go to the Eagles. And that was kind of a shock, to be honest with you. I don't think anybody was really anticipating that much. It just kind of came out of the blue. And it kind of hurts a little bit, doesn't it? The fact that we were close to getting him, talking about Cardwell between Auburn and Oregon, offered 2 weeks before, is amazing where we were in it. Well, I think that speaks to the testament of, the recruiting prowess of this, and somebody that really may have been excited about what had been coming to Auburn. But when you've got a team in flux and transition like that, the excitement sometimes get weighed down by the reality of what could be coming for this program in terms of not necessarily struggles, but some time of, just figuring things out. Stan, what's going on? Stanford, Florida. How's the weather down there in Stanford? Is it nice? Florida. I mean, it's actually, I'm looking outside right now. It actually looks pretty nice outside after a disgusting day yesterday. So I'm hoping it'll dry out and I can get out there and get some fresh air. But yeah, Stanford, Florida. I bet that's some great weather down there. We got to do better with in-state recruiting, in my opinion. This is Darius saying this. Until you realize we compete with a consistent top 5 team for them. But it really doesn't excuse much. I don't think it's an excuse, Darius. And let me just lay this out for everybody listening here, especially for those on Instagram, because they're not seeing the comments. I get that. So he was saying that we got to do a better job at in-state recruiting. I agree with you. I don't think that needs to be our focus right now. And focus is not a good word. So let me retract that statement and circle back on that. Auburn, it was already slightly behind in in-state recruiting and Southeast recruiting with, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the LSUs, and every once in a while it's like an Ole Miss or a Tennessee that pops in there and becomes a top 5 recruiter in the SEC. So they were kind of always fighting an uphill battle. Now that's even more the case with the staff transition. I think what needs to happen is they need to utilize their West Coast, Mid-Coast, Southwest influence with some of this coaching staff, bring in some players, not necessarily transfers, some transfers, but to bring them in to get over the hump. And then you need to start building relationships with some of these younger guys, the juniors now, and build up a class that's going to make an impact 2-3 years down the line. So yes, I do think in-state recruiting needs to be a priority always, but it needs to be more sort of a longevity-focused in-state recruiting than right now. So just kind of my take on that. Yehan, I don't know if you heard me say this at the beginning. I have no clue. My source is silent on it right now. I don't think anybody knows. I don't necessarily know that Coach Bryan Harsin knows at this point, because he's kind of in a rock and a hard place, wouldn't you think? He spurned the fan favorite T-Will, so he was already not in a, in some ways had not made some people happy with that, whether it was the right choice to keep T-Will or not. But he also, has to deal with this whole transition thing that's going on right now. With Tracy Rocker, what it could have been, in some ways, was a fan favorite because he's got Auburn attached to him. I know some people didn't necessarily like him for his recruiting, but I don't think you can deny that he was a great coach. Which some people complained about other coaches about anyway, so that's kind of ironic. So yeah, it's a tough situation for Coach Bryan Harsin. He may take a beat and figure things out here. Sunny 2 and partly cloudy skies. Wow. Doesn't that sound great, guys? There's nothing better than a partly cloudy, low 70s day on Sanford Lawn in Auburn, Alabama. I know we're talking about in beautiful in Northeast Alabama. I bet it is up there. I don't know if you've ever spent time on Sanford Lawn on campus, but there's something about a nice little cool breeze on a slightly warm day whipping across campus there. That's incredible. I'm not even actually sure that this is. I'm looking at this, trying to figure out if this. Okay, we might actually be live now. I cannot figure out for the life of me. I try to every once in a while let the YouTube folks or the social media folks be on this, and I've been rotating who gets to see it. But I can't tell if the Instagram folks. It says there's a lot of people active, but it's weird. Anyway, you YouTube folks don't care about that. We're just trying to do something nice for the social media folks. Kind of glad that Rocker's leaving. I heard he doesn't like recruiting much, so it might have been very problematic long term. I don't think that Tracy Rocker was going to be a long-term solution. I think he was, again, one of these that would come in, fill a role for a little while, and then move on. And I think we've already seen that take the effect right here. If Auburn was his place, he wouldn't have jumped ship 2 weeks into his to working there, right? So I do think I don't think anybody ever thought that he was a long-term solution or a long-term coach to be here. I think you look at a guy like Cadillac, he probably looks like a coach that'll be here for another 5 years unless he literally skyrockets and can't turn down some money and things like that. But yeah, I don't think anybody thought he was going to be here for a while. Sunny here in Opelika. Great day for driveway basketball. Yeah, typing's hard, Darius. Sometimes it is. Ted Roof for defensive line? Oh, do we want to do that again? Well, let's do that. Everybody throw out some names for me for defensive line. What do you think should happen? Ted Roof for defensive line. Ted Roof, I think, got a lot of flack in some areas when he was here. Probably deservedly so. But we could have done a lot worse. Yeah, we could have done a lot worse. I thought Bryan Van Gorder, when he came in to replace him under Gene Chizik, was going to do a lot better job. Didn't really work out that much, did it? Didn't really work out that much. Any chance for Rodney Gunner to come back? I don't think so. I think most of and that's why I'm honestly not hopeful that this situation that's arisen now is going to work out for T. Will's favor. I think that personally, anybody that was not selected at this point from the previous staff is probably feeling a little spurned and is probably not even going to want to come back, even if they, had the option to. And I think Hillbilly and no to Ted. Okay, is what you're saying. Yeah. I think we can do a lot worse than Ted, but I'm not saying that I necessarily want to do that again. Salt Army's here. What's going on, guys? Appreciate it. Thank y'all for being here. Like our chances with Jawan Gaston. I haven't done a lot of research on him. Again, this is something that you're going to continue hearing me say, that while we're going to talk about some recruiting here, and it is not something that I am huge up on, and not to the level of my friend Clint Richardson, who was a longtime contributor on the podcast network. He absolutely hates recruiting with a passion. I don't hate it. I enjoy the outside perspective of it. But I know that's a big thing for a lot of you, and so I'm trying to get more and more information about that. From Montgomery, I'm sure he'd like to stay close to home. So, yeah, anytime you can, I think definitely what you would want to do is leverage some of these in-state kids that are closer, the lower central, the eastern schools. You can really leverage that right now, especially with COVID-19 out there. Not saying that you should take advantage necessarily of that, but you can do that in recruiting and kind of say, look, it's going to be tough to go off somewhere if you get stuck somewhere during a lockdown. You can't see your family, but if you're close by, so you can really leverage that if you like that. You have to think it's going to be another. Skinny Boy says, if you have to think it's going to be another Auburn guy. No, I don't think so. I think this may have left a bad taste in Coach Bryan Harsin's mouth for the Auburn guys at this point, because I just don't see the Travis Williams thing happening. And of course, I've said that in here during the show. They're going to announce that they switched people's roles around and he's coming back or going to coach the defensive line. I just don't see it happening. I really don't. And I think what will happen now, just outside looking in perspective, is that Coach Bryan Harsin is going to go to Coach Derek Mason and say, bring me your list and let's get your guy in, because clearly the guy that I found and we found, or the initial guy we found together, I don't know how much he was involved in that, didn't want to be here. And I wonder too about Tracy Rocker. I know probably, you can't fault a guy for having, NFL aspirations, but I wonder how much it was he didn't mesh well with Derek. It could have been, right? Or, I would think that you would mesh well with Coach Bryan Harsin if he hired you, initially at least. But maybe he didn't mesh well with Derek Mason. Wonder if Coach Bryan Harsin goes after dude from the Falcons who's a really good recruiter when he coached in college. What's his name? Are you talking about Dan Quinn? Is that who you're talking about? The head coach, former head coach for the Falcons. I don't mean this completely seriously when I say this. I've never understood why anybody wants someone from the Falcons because all they do is lose leads, especially defensively. Not my cup of tea. All you need are McDonald's bags. Please tell me y'all saw, I don't know who did the mock-up of it, but someone, I think it was on a Facebook group or something like that. It wasn't ours. But someone did a mock-up of the Tennessee uniform, and it had like all the McDonald's like labeling and logo all over it now. That's well done. Well done. Whoever did that, that was it. Oh, Tosh Lupoy something. Okay, yes, he is a pretty good recruiter. I haven't heard a lot. Like I said, I have not heard any information about this part of the coaching search yet. So I don't know. So any name out there that kind of intrigues me a little bit. I know he was a household name for a little while. We can always go off topic. Don't be ashamed of that. I wish I knew if these Instagram people were watching or not because it says there's active people, but I don't see anybody. This is weird. I just want to know. I don't know. We'll figure out later though. Stereotypical Auburn fans is off topic, but I think Bo Nix gets really too much hate, and with a half decent O-line, he could be a very electric runner, and when he sets his feet, he's usually very accurate, could be really, really good. I agree. I 100% agree on that. I do think that he gets a lot of unwarranted, not unwarranted, a little bit of an unfair criticism. I understand being frustrated. Again, here we go. I'm going to do it right here. Context, emotions. Somewhere they meeting together to form the actual reality. We can be frustrated at Bo Nix for some of the tendencies he has now, but why does he have those tendencies? You'd have those tendencies too if you had that offensive line. So that's why I continue to maintain the Auburn offensive problems begin and end with the offensive line. It is much easier to fix a Bo Nix mechanic situation or footwork situation or confidence, which I think is really what it is, situation, if you fix the offensive line. Same thing for running, pass blocking, all that kind of stuff. If we get Dan Quinn, would be Ella. If we did get Dan Quinn, Bryan Harsin would be the GOAT. Really? I don't share that same opinion. I've never understood people that want Dan Quinn. I really don't get that. Can I hear your way too early record prediction? I said we talked about this during the actual coaching search for Coach Bryan Harsin. I'm of the opinion that we go 8-5, including a bowl win next year. I think the year two, I'm not really settled on an actual record, but I think we push for the SEC championship, and kind of a name that's up there in conversations for what to do. And I think year three, there will be a leveling off. And if he can survive year 3 and 4, we're going to be good. But after that, so that's kind of my short-term and long-term predictions. It hurts to be a Falcons fan. And this is why I'm not a Falcon. I live outside the Atlanta area, and the only Atlanta team that I connect to is the Braves, just because of, growing up, baseball was the only baseball team that was around us, even when I lived in Alabama. I've never liked the Falcons. I've never liked the Hawks when the Thrashers were here. I've never liked the Thrashers. I've been to an Atlanta United game here, the soccer team here. It's fine, but only soccer I like really is the World Cup or Auburn soccer. So, yeah, not a Falcons fan. And the reason here, I know this is not related, but the reason I'm not a Falcons fan too is because I was raised to be a Packers fan, and I still am for the most part, but don't really get that up about it. Packers and the Falcons used to be in the same division, and every year stinking Michael Vick would knock the Packers out of the playoffs. That's why I learned to hate the Falcons. But now it's just funny to watch them fail. But it could have been just the recruiting piece that ran him off. It could have been. I have a feeling that it was more. I think it was a combo. I'm assuming we're talking about Tracy Rucker. Him leaving because of opportunity coupled with meshing with the staff. I don't think it's going to be so much the recruiting thing. I think Bo Nix will likely have a big year if he can get him some stability in the offense and his mechanics. I don't know that he's going to have a big year. So my trajectory for Bo Nix, sans firing Coach Malzahn. If he was still here, everything was still the same. I think this next year would have been a great year for him. because I think the offensive line would have improved a lot better had some things happened. Doesn't look to be that case now. But yeah, I do think this year would have been. But now that with the transition, the new offense, trying to figure out the offensive line with this staff, I think this is going to be, another growth year for him. So his senior year, hopefully, is when we see that finally come to fruition. And he's going to be pushed by Demetrius Davis and the other quarterbacks coming in. And he's already a huge competitor. So here's something you'll never, ever be able to question about Bo Nix is his effort and desire to be out there. I don't think anybody can do that. Let's see. Forces him to scramble if he gets too pressured. What about T-Will? I don't know how long you've been here, LB, but on this stream in particular, we have no information really about what's going on. That's why we were kind of all just picking our brains here. I don't see T-Will coming back. I just don't. You don't pen a farewell letter like he did and come back. I just don't think it happens. Especially if you're the second choice. So I just like I tried to caution everybody here about the recruiting situation with the Cardwell kid between Auburn and Oregon. Don't get your hopes up. By the way, we've got 40 people here already. Thank y'all so much. If you haven't and you're enjoying this content, please smash that like button. It does help the stream out. And by the way, we are sitting at about like 807 subscribers. Slowed down a lot. We're still continuing that march up to 1,000 subscribers, which is the big mark for YouTube channels. So if you haven't, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when we go live. All right, let's keep moving right along here. Hillbilly, of course, with his inflammatory comments about Bo. Bo will never be better than average, no matter who's on the offensive line. I'll hold you to it, Hillbilly. And if you're right, I have no problem looking at you right here and saying you're right. But I believe you're going to be wrong. Hoping we return to 2017. So what do you hope, Darius, what about 2017 do you hope we return to? Because that's a very broad statement. What about 2017? I don't want because we were winning. I mean, duh. But what do you mean by that? That's what I would like to know. I'm a Braves fan. And you feel the pain, yes. As bad our offensive line was combined with the players lost, we are in a bad shape for next season. It will take at least 3 years to rebound with completion of the football performance center. So, true GA champion. Let me level with you here for a minute. And you've been someone that has given a lot of strong opinions, some that I agree with a lot of the time. But I think you have a tendency, and I'm not trying to pick on you, so just please hear me out. Just like I don't pick on Hillbilly when he does his other end of the spectrum things. I think you have a tendency to go a little bit too on the pessimistic side. I'm sitting here saying that I think we are going to struggle too, right? But I don't think it's going to be all bad. I think it's going to be a growth year, but I'm comfortable with that, and I'm comfortable to say that I'm willing to wait and be patient to understand that a new staff takes time to get their things into place. It takes, my rule is I think a new coach deserves 4 to 5 years. The reason I don't say a flat out 5 is because I know that's just too long for some people to wait. But I think it takes 5 years to get your one full class that you have recruited and brought in to prove your worth as a coach. 5 years sees a one full class through, and can you maintain that? An extra cycle. You can do that. I think that's going to be set Coach Bryan Harsin up for success. So you got to have some patience. First time you've been here in your live stream, everybody, welcome Justin. Thanks for being here, Justin. Glad when we can see new faces here that haven't had a chance to actually be here live. Interesting avatar too. It kind of creeps me out just a little bit. But yeah, so we're just kind of mulling about everything Auburn right now. We talked a little bit about, we don't know where the defensive line coach's situation is going. I would just caution y'all not to get your hopes up about T-Will. I think Derek Mason's going to go out and get his guy. I think that's what Coach Bryan Harsin is. Probably what's happened is they've sat down now and said, he's told Derek Mason, bring me your list. Let's talk about him. Let's interview who we need to, and let's go get him. I think we bash on Nix way too much. We have the most successful high school quarterback in Bama history. He has all the talent in the world, but we haven't developed him. I think Bryan Harsin can change that. Yeah, right? So that's, I don't necessarily agree with that we haven't developed him. It's hard to do much development when you are running for your life the entire time. And it's, as I always say, it's much easier to blame one player as it is to a unit, because there's 5 people involved in that offensive line. And it's much easier to place blame on that one guy and focus on him as opposed to the offensive line where it starts and ends. The line of scrimmage is what wins football games, not a quarterback. The line of scrimmage. Look at what Alabama's doing. Bo Nix, number 1 quarterback in the SEC in 2021. I hope you're right, Joe. I really do. I just, I would say no, he's not going to be. He's going to be one of the best, I think, but not the best. Can't wait to see our 5th strings when we obliterate Akron 89-0. Probably going to happen. They might actually, I think there's the old, I think it's true, not necessarily a legend, where they called the guy out of the stands to come play because they didn't have enough people to compete out there. So we might get that. If you're in the stands for that game, you might get called out to compete. See, I don't think this thing is live. I'm trying to figure out if this is live or not, but it keeps going dark, which, anyway, doesn't matter. You guys are here, and that's all that matters. In fact, you know what? We're just going to let that one go. Yeah, I don't think that thing was live at all. But that's what we do. We learn, and we try new things here. We're trying to involve the other social media people. I'm of the opinion that Harsin will develop Bo better than Gus would. Harsin played quarterback in college, so the connection will be there. So that's an easy. I think it's an easy assumption to make, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that. But when you fire a coach and say that they can develop, the next one will be able to develop them better, that's kind of what's expected. We'll just wait and see. Just because you're a quarterback doesn't mean that you can develop quarterbacks better. But I hope he can, and I think he can. Now that it will jinx us, we'll lose 45-32. There's one thing, Darius, that you can always count on an Auburn football team to do. Auburn sports is to lose to somebody, or either lose to somebody they're not supposed to, or play down to the competition. That is the Auburn way. I don't like it. I don't think it should be that way, but it is, and I accept that. The offense should get better together. We will see improvements, but we will see growing pains because of you're putting in a new system. New players have left. So it's just going to be a lot of growing pains there. So I asked Darius earlier what he wants being good, LOL. So yeah, I would want please beat Georgia. That's all I ask of us. And he lives here in the Georgia area, so I understand the affinity towards doing that. Look, I love beating Georgia just as much as the next guy, but that can't be our only goal. I would say we need to put more emphasis on beating Alabama than we do Georgia. Because they are the door to the SEC West at the very least right now. Theodore, I think you probably just popped in. We haven't. We've talked a little about it. We don't know. I don't have any information from my source about that. Nothing major to really report there. It was more kind of the title here is more maybe to spark conversation about it, who everybody thinks. We've heard people speculate about Josh Lupoy. Does Rodney Gardner come back? There's the whole theory, which I personally think makes sense. I just don't see it happening, of moving Jeff Schmedding, who is that inside linebacker run game coordinator, down to defensive line where he originally was at Boise State, and bringing in Travis Williams into that slot as some type of linebacker coach. I just don't see it happening at this point. I feel like 2017 could have been our 2013 redemption, possibly. SC championship loss is still something. Okay. How many years are we giving Coach Harsin to get it together for real, though? Let's ask the room. How many years until you start questioning Coach Harsin? And I don't mean that rudely. I'm just curious. How many years will you give Coach Harsin before you start questioning him? Me, 4 to 5. Probably on the 5 side, because I tend to be more lenient and more patient than most people. To many of my critics' chagrin. I was very positive during the Gus years because he was good, so I'm a realist. And I was positive during the Gus years, and I'm going to be positive about this. But I'm also when you talk about being a realist, we can't sit here and just talk all down about everything, about how it's going to suck. I've proposed some reality checks here, that it is going to be growing pains, that we are going to not have the best season next year, but it's going to see some realm of success, that we'll have a surge in a year or two, and then we'll level off again. And what happens after that is the true test of this coaching staff. So I think you just got to kind of temper it. Look, and I think you and I sit on the same side of this the equation of supporting Coach Malzahn and think this was a stupid choice. But, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying to say move on, because I do think that there are still some points to be made about that. But we do have to kind of figure what we're going to do now, because it's over. Most successful quarterbacks are Texas and Alabama because of that offensive line. 10-2 next year bowl prediction. Hold me to it. Justin, I love it, man. Hey, if we are 10-2, there is no complaints in my book whatsoever. I think that's what people forget when I'm sitting here saying, cautioning people about what's going to happen next year. I think they somehow think I'm wishing that. Do you think I want the team to fail? Do you think I want the team to not be successful, to not win a championship? No. I just want to set my expectations realistically and be surprised. That way, think about it this way. So if you're here and most people's expectations are up here, when they don't happen, they have farther to fall. You don't. It's not as big of an impact when you fall. That's kind of my philosophy. Stereotypical Auburn fan. I just love listening to Bryan Harsin talk about football. He seems to really understand the game. I think all coaches do, but I think we are right now going to love basically everything that he says and does. Not for the most part. Obviously, he kind of has a little bit of stink with the T-Will situation, but we're going to love it, and that's great. But I think that because change, is something that we all kind of appreciate and kind of most people wanted. So all of that's going to sound good. And I love that. I'm just trying to, you know me, if you've been here, I just love to play devil's advocate. All right, let me scroll down here just a second. I asked the question, how many years do you give Coach Bryan Harsin? I have your IP. 4, 3, 4, 5. Anybody else? Okay. Let me come back up to some of the comments here. So it seems like we've got an average of about 4, because I said 4 to 5. There was another 5. There were a couple of 3s and then a couple of 4s. So I think 4 years is reasonable. I would prefer to give him that 5th year. But I understand 4 kind of being the mark. That kind of makes people a little bit impatient at that point. Can't stand Auburn fans blaming Bo for everything that went wrong. I'm willing to let Bobo work on Bo fundamentals and see Bo flourish. Yeah, I agree. That's the thing. I think that's a smart way to go about it, is let's see what Bobo can do with Bo and then criticize or call for somebody else. Let's wait and not think that that's happening. I know we talk a lot about sports here, but I do love talking about other Auburn things, even if it's just about the town and stuff. And this is not necessarily Auburn, but Opelika is basically Auburn. I hear Opelika is getting a Whataburger. I saw that somebody had posted that about some community thing over there. Not a fan of Whataburger at all. I think it's gross, but I know that's a lot of people. It's in the same vein to me as Cookout. I will eat it if someone else has to have it as their thing that they want, and I'm with a group of people. But I would never ever seek out Whataburger. I'd never seek out Whataburger, a Milo's. Jack's I would seek out for breakfast, but nothing else. It's kind of Jack's and Hardee's are in the same vein for me. But I'm happy that y'all are getting something. Y'all are excited about it there. That's a dub for us in the area. We've got to fix that. We can't be losing to teams like South Carolina every year. That's the one thing we got to do to get up where Alabama and Georgia are. I don't necessarily think that's the one thing we have to do. I think you have a point there. I think losing to teams on a consistent basis we shouldn't lose to is something that we do need to keep in check. But things are going to happen. I can't stand people seeing Bo play for 2 years and expecting something different. Well, that's where you and I different. Of course, we've learned who you are a little bit, Hillbilly. You just love to be inflammatory, which is, and I don't mean that in a mean sense. So that's why we kind of just let you do you. Need to see improvement by year 2. It's a little bit harsh. Well, not improvement. Yes, improvement. Yes, but if you're not willing to let him be longer than that, I think that's a little rush. I think we should only get 2 years. I think he should only get 2 years since Gus only got 1 year to be normal. I think it would be fair, right? But no, I wouldn't wish that on Coach Bryan Harsin. You were on the Paul Fine. First of all, why would you go be on the Paul Feinbaum show? Why? Why would you? I will never forget where I was when I listened to Harvey. That was pretty much the day I stopped listening to Paul Feinbaum. Was the day I was listening live when Harvey Updike called in about the tree. I was in Auburn. I was driving across the interstate there, the main exit on College Street, going towards some of those residential areas over there. Never forget where I was when I heard that call. It was awful. Awful, awful, awful. 9-3, losing to Alabama, GA, and Texas A&M. Probably likely. 2 years of growing pains, and I believe Auburn will start having 10-win seasons. I think that's a fair point. I think that's a highly possible situation. I love Guthrie's. Oh man, I don't know how many people visit Auburn frequently, but there used to be the Guthrie's there on Opelika Road, right where it turns into North Gay Street, I think. It's gone now, and I lived in an apartment complex literally within walking distance of that. Oh, so good. I used to walk from games, stop at Guthrie, sit in those booths in the back and eat, and then go. And I'd see so many football players there all the time. That's really the reason I went, is to see all the football players that came in to Guthrie's. Paul Feinbaum reminds me of Ichabod Crane. That's a fair comparison. I would not say that is not a fair comparison whatsoever. I was listening that day, and it was a holy poo-poo moment. So when I was listening, Salt, that day, I just thought this is another one of these Bama fans just wanting to stir things up. But then I started getting word that no, we've actually known about this from people within the campus and the university. We've actually already been researching this, and that kind of confirmed our fears. And sure enough, that was a sad day. I will never forget. And here's the scary thing. I lived at that time in downtown, basically. I lived above the building. I took care of a building as kind of my rent, and I got to live in an apartment above it. Literally, the guy did that. I was sleeping less than 100 yards from when he went and did that night. And that's the scariest thing about that. I mean, how sadistic. And look, I get the guy's dead, and I hurt for his family. I even wrote an article about that on the webpage if you ever checked it out. I hope you'll check that out if you haven't. But how sadistic and how evil do you have to be to not? It's not about a tree, you killing a tree, but just to do something in the dark of night like that. How twisted are you? I'm not being inflammatory. All facts. All players have ceilings, and we've seen his ceiling. We will never be better than average. Well, here's what I'll say, Hillbilly. I get you see ceilings. I get that, you're saying facts. You're saying the facts as they are right now, but you're not talking about what could be. And I will be honest with you here, and I'm not trying to stir things up, but if you're not going to be kinder in your discussion of Bo, we're just not going to address your comments about him. Because one of the things that we pride ourselves here about our network and our community that we're building here is that we are productive in our conversation about players and coaches, especially because we have a lot of family members, and I know some of them that are watching right now. Maybe some of Bo's family are watching right now. It could be. That we want to always be that way for them, that we want them to fit. We've cultivated an environment that is welcoming to the families, and to the athletes too that want to be here. So just always remember that when we're talking about that stuff. We gave Gus a millennium to make us average. As long as there's development and improvement from year to year, I'm good. Stagnant is one word I would use to describe the Gus era. I love Whataburger. Well, that's a lot in that one. Couldn't disagree with you more on all of it, but that's a lot in there. Wow, I got behind. I got really behind here. Let's see. Hillbilly is a time machine. Please reveal more Nostrum. Okay. I'm still a Met on the Penn State game. Beaver Stadium has a great fan base. When you say Met, are you talking about our prospects of winning it? You know, like in terms of winning it. I mean, yeah, I'm not super hyped about it. But yeah. David's nice way of telling someone to. No, I'm not telling anybody to be quiet, but I'm just asking to people to be responsible in the way that they discuss somebody. You know, there are times I'll let you express your opinion that may be a little bit more unkind about someone, a little bit less fair. But you know, I just want to make sure that we are maintaining the environment that we built here, that we're not going to just be rude about somebody just for the sake of being rude. And if that's something that offends you, then I'm sorry. Because you're in turn being very offensive to that player and his family and the coaches. Where is Penn State at? It's in College Station, Pennsylvania. Not College Station. That's Texas A&M. It's Happy Valley is the place. College something, Pennsylvania is where it's located. I'd like to attend a game not at Jordan-Hare's Stadium. I live in Tennessee. So that's probably, depending on where you live in Tennessee, Joe, that's probably a really good place for you to maybe go up and visit because you've already got a leg up heading towards Pennsylvania. I think it's more on the, if I'm correct, I think it's more on the east side of Pennsylvania. So it's still probably quite a haul from you. You got to get up there through Virginia, West Virginia, but you probably can make it. I have a question. On average, hasn't Auburn been an 8-9 win team on average? Yes. I'm trying to do quick math in my head. During the Gus era, yes. Probably more of an 8-win team during the Gus era. During Tommy Tuberville, felt like it was closer to a 9-win season. So yeah, I think the question you're trying to provoke there and ask is, what is the, is this ceiling realistic? I don't think it necessarily is. People, I think 9 is a shooting for the roof, not shooting for the roof, is a challenging goal to set, but it is very doable, especially right now because you got to consider Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M, or I will interchange Texas A&M and LSU because they seem to flip-flop. But you've got 3 teams consistently every year that are going to be good right now that Auburn has to beat. So I think a 9-win season is not something to be upset about. It's understandable to get in a way that you want more than that. But yeah. I'm giving Bo the benefit of the doubt. The kid has been running for his life since he got out of high school. College Park, thank you. Not College Station, not College Town, College Park, Pennsylvania. So there you go. All right, let me do a couple things here. I think we kind of covered a lot already, but I'm going to let you guys know about a few things that we've got going on. Let's get some. We still got time for questions and comments, so get them in. Doesn't have to be football related. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be Auburn related, but feel free to. These streams are produced by you and for you. So these are the ways that you can help support the content that we do here. If you haven't, please check out the podcast. Here is the link in the comment section down below. If you're an Apple subscriber, please do go give us a review over there. Even if it's 1 star, if you don't like us, that's understandable. We always want to have constructive criticism, just like constructive criticism of Bo. Wink, wink, hillbilly. Even though I don't think he's here anymore. It always gets funny when people get offended about someone disagreeing with them. But anyway, Patreon is a way that you can help support this content here. It's also in the chat window too. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month, help produce the content we do here and on our podcast network. A lot of you have signed up, and we really, really appreciate that so much. There's also a TeePublic store and PayPal donations if you want to help keep the content going here. Great stream today too. We got 48 people, 14 likes. If you've enjoyed this content, please do smash the like button to help us out. And what was the other thing I was going to tell you guys? Oh, I wanted to talk to y'all a little bit about the Tiger Tracks podcast. So I know we try to do as many Auburn sports themed related podcasts we can. And we do have a Tiger Tracks where it's my wife and I. She has a background as a track and field athlete and a cross country athlete. So I'm just there for color commentary. I know that track and field is not the most exciting thing that Auburn fans get on board with. I would encourage you to check it out because if nothing else, it's a husband and wife acting ridiculous together on a podcast, and that's kind of the way we try to spin it for you guys. Is we want to give you information about the program so that you can know a little bit about it because it's worth knowing about. There's some great, especially they've had a great start. We'll see. We'll really figure out in the next meet how good this team's going to be this year. But great start thus far. So check that out if you haven't. That went out today. Any thoughts on the B-ball game today? I hope Powell is back. It would be great to see full team play. I look at this point, I'm so worried about Justin Powell. I really am. I can't even I just really worried about the dude. I think last stream I talked about going, and if y'all haven't, go look at the NCAA protocols for concussion stuff, and you maybe get a picture of what might be going on. I don't have a clue of what's going on, but just kind of maybe understand why they're taking this thing so seriously. So yeah, I do think, Justin Powell update. When is the next game? The next game is, as he says, today, and we play Missouri, number 12. Well, they were number 12, I think. I don't know where they are currently. But yes, I'm worried about Justin Powell. I think the team's playing well without him. I would love to see them with him and see how exciting that would be. But remember, when you insert another piece in, there's usually growing pains is there as well. And then you're going to need to give them a little patience to figure it out. So that might mean a few losses, especially we've got a tough stretch here. You got Missouri. You've got Baylor, number 2 in the nation in the Big 12 SC Challenge, which I'm excited for personally. But yeah. So yeah. I'm having a hard time thinking of any up and coming defensive line coaches, and I am too, Neil. That's when we were talking about this throughout the stream. I just don't have any clue. I don't have any insight into it. I really think we're going to probably sit there without a defensive line coach for at least a week until we finally get some word about what's going on. I feel like our defense is going to be better this year. We aren't losing much, and more or less the pieces that are losing can be replaced. I think we're losing a little bit much on the defensive line. It can be replaced, but that means young talent or transfer talent, which is still a transition. I think we'll be good. We'll be pretty set at defensive back. Linebackers should be okay. I think if you think of it as in the top of the defense down, I think it kind of trickles down a little bit in terms of my security level of that. But I think it'll be good. New, fresh defense. And you're doing a new defense, 3-4. Who knows how that's going to work out? I've never really liked the 3-4. But if it works at Auburn, I'm not going to complain, right? Looking at the team stats from 2020, right here on the SEC, Auburn was number 5 behind the usual suspects. The team stats, yeah. So the usual suspects being Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Texas A&M probably. Is that who it was? Or something like that. I'm so impressed with Alan Flanagan's improvement. He's improved and matured so much. Dude's going to get drafted. Bruce Pearl earns his money. I love that guy. Yeah, I did not expect Alan Flanagan to take the jump from where he was last year, which was good to hear. But, yeah, he's really showed that he's put the work in. And he was not a guy that a lot of people, that the bigger names, sought after. And so, again, you've got a situation where Coach Pearl has gone in and plucked out someone that nobody was paying attention to. Jared Harper, and in some ways Justin Powell. I mean, he was paid attention to, but not by the team that you thought would in Kentucky. So, yeah, Alan Flanagan is very impressive. So I'm excited for this game tonight. It's going to be a late one, right? 9 o'clock Eastern time. But we'll have the podcast out tomorrow. If Gray, my co-host, he joined me as a co-host officially a couple episodes ago. He was sick the last one, but if he's feeling better, he'll be back on this one, so we'll break that one down. All right, guys, I think that is about it for today. I really appreciate everybody being here. Here, last question here. How do you think some of our players that are going to the league will fare with no NFL combine? That's a great point. Not well. I don't know that their tapes. And I'm not. Maybe Seth, I think, is going to be fine. I think Schwartz needed the combine, to be honest with you. I think Schwartz needed the combine. So, yeah, I think that one would probably be the toughest one. Who do you think is the biggest dark horse player on the team? TD Moultrie at linebacker. Let's see. I like that pick. Dark horse player. I'm trying to think here. I don't think you would consider him a dark horse, but from where he come from, I still think so. Is Roger McCreary. He's good stuff there. Really good stuff. Seth Williams has to be second or third round. I would expect third round, to be honest with you, where he sits at right now. All right, guys, I think that's going to be it for today. I really appreciate it. Again, look, I know we had somebody who got their feelings hurt in here when we talk about things. That's the main thing here is if you don't agree with someone, or me especially, you don't have to get offended about it. Just we're here to discuss things, and that's the whole point of having a discussion. So I hope none of you, anytime that I take a different angle in something you said, or even maybe kind of give you a little bit of a encouraging nudge to be a little bit better. Maybe not encouraging is the right way. I hope that none of y'all take it offensively because we all get too offended these days. So I hope that y'all enjoyed the stream, and I will be spotty in terms of when I can do the live stream again over the next 2 days. If something big breaks over the next 2 days, we'll probably do it in the evening, but probably be back on Friday, and hopefully we'll have some news on the defensive line coach. I mean, really, we need some information about this. So get y'all's contacts going. Let's figure this thing out, and let's find ourselves a defensive line coach. I'll talk to you later. War Eagle.